Welcome to the Bearded Finisher Podcast, your one-stop show for all things finishing and coatings. Your host, Zach, and a variety of industry experts will guide you through the art of perfecting your finishing and business game. From seasoned pros to fresh faces, get ready for tips, tricks, and trends to elevate your knowledge and business to the next level.
What is going on, everybody? Zach here. Welcome to another episode of the Bearded Finisher Podcast. Today's episode, we have got Mr. Patrick Sartor out of Crosby, Texas, which is down in the Houston area. Unique fact about Patrick is he is not what we would qualify as a typical finisher. He has a day job. He does some cabinet finishing. He did his own. So the take of someone who does not do this every day when it comes to professional wood coatings, I think is going to be very insightful. What's going on, Patrick?
Hey, how you doing, Zach?
I'm doing great.
It is a little rainy right now here in Crosby. We're getting wet.
I saw that. We're up in Waco, and my wife was, she works 980, so she has today off. She's taking the kids out, and they were going to go to the pool, and then it was like, all right, it just went to 40% chance of rain. Maybe we won't go to the pool today. Might not be a bad idea. So just kind of, I'm glad you came on. I want to say thank you for that. I'm interested to see what do we want to call it? The knowledge or the insight from a guy that uses professional wood coatings, because you use Centurion, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you and I have talked quite a bit from my previous tenure over at Centurion, troubleshooting and helping equipment and stuff like that. So kind of give everybody your breakdown, what your day job is and what kind of led you to doing your own cabinets versus hiring someone.
Okay. Well, day job is I'm an integration project manager. I have a background of about 25 years of writing and developing software in the energy business. And due to the onset of fracking, I was asked to remove the energy business and go somewhere else to work, which is totally fine. I got to meet a bunch of great people. So I work now for a large healthcare organization, government contractor. And so we're doing integration management, it's portfolio management. So every day it's project plans, risk, mitigation of risk, pushing people. A lot of things that the people who run these paint companies do every day, it's project management. It is the exact same thing. So there's a lot of parallels. I hear people talking about, I hear you talking about it and going, yeah, I feel your pain. The ERP you talked about, I used to have a PeopleSoft instance a few years ago that I was responsible for it. Go, well, that's a job y'all had. So then getting into finishing, it kind of started when I was young, about 13 years old. My dad tried to, knows where try, to refinish the cabinets, right? He was a very great metal worker. He was a journeyman millwright. Anything that spun, he could fix. Wood wasn't his thing. He attempted it. We had a relative who was running a little GC company and said, hey, I got a finisher who can do this. And I watched this guy come in there as a kid with, some, I think urethanes, I'm not for sure, but all these powders and dyes and stuff. And next thing you know, he's toning that wood. And he brushed it on, and it was slick as could be. And I was going, holy cow. That was impressive as a kid. I'm going, that was impressive. Because I helped try to sand those cabinets with my mom and I. Hand sand or a little vibrating, finishing sander. We're not talking a surf prep sander like I have in the shop right now, which, you hold that thing still, it will dig a hole in the wood. It's that good a piece of equipment. So that just kind of set it off. It's like, oh, that's interesting. And then parents let me refinish a piece of outdoor furniture. And it was a disaster, but hey, it worked. Then next thing you know, Then I learned that there's a thing they do toning on furniture in general, because they said I asked to refinish my desk that I had in my room. My brother had destroyed it. I was the youngest of three kids. And I found out they tone that stuff. And it's brought up through layers. And actually, I stripped it with some stripper, and all of a sudden I see all these different kinds of wood there. And I go, well, this is probably going to be a problem. And it was, but I just rolled with it. Yeah. And it's over years. You go to get older, go to college, and plan the software thing. Wife wants something done, and so I painted my first set of cabinets. I was about 25 years old, something like that. Brushed them oil-based, alkyd resin. It turned yellow. You know how bad that went. It worked. And my dad had a spray gun. I borrowed that from him, and so I started playing with it, and things started getting better and better. So as time went on, I bought my own spray gun. I bought a Developus gravity feed gun. Started playing with that. I ended up refinishing stuff with that. Spraying mostly urethanes, polyurethane stuff over the counter stuff from the big box stores. That worked out well. I learned a lot of runs, but I got better and better. And then as we kept progressing over time and age and kids getting out of the house, I enjoy this. I've always enjoyed it. I built furniture, my kids' beds. I built friends' kids' beds, stuff. Well, I wanted a little better, and I wanted to upgrade. And I knew there had to be something better, and I was not going to use latex. That was just not going to be it. And I got to start reading. It's going to say, what are these guys using? How do they do this? And so somehow I stumbled across all the biggies: Renner, Centurion, Lazy. If I pronounce them lazy wrong, I apologize to everybody. All the other ones out there. And somehow, what it was, I saw Centurion was made in Texas. Texas guys, oh, heck yeah. We're going to buy Texas because, we live in Texas, and everybody else, I'm going to go to Texas and everybody else can go to hell, something like that. It's been said. But,
yep.
So we're going to do that. And reached out to you, and a bunch of other people started watching videos, and quickly learned that stuff is finicky. But it's neat at the same time. Very hard to work with. And I have learned in the past, over this time, over years of doing this, I have a great respect for people in I'm going to use the word coatings industry. Painting, even as a wall, trim, fine finishing of cabinets wood. I have a respect for that because to do it well, do it right is hard. It is not easy. And people do not respect it.
No, it is definitely, that's one of my big pet peeves on the finishing industry. It's considered, across the U.S. as an unskilled trade. And I'm just like, it is anything but unskilled. I mean, there's no way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. I have learned the prep. I just laughed. A couple years ago, my wife and I, light bulb went off that we prime all walls before we paint now. About 10 years ago, we started doing this. And she loves to paint, so that's another thing. She likes colors, decorate. I'm the coating applicator. We're going to do it the way I want to do it. And it must have, but she's going to get what she wants. Trust me.
Of course.
Yeah. So we started figuring out the prime thing now. And then it clicked. Man, this prep is just got to be done right. You got to prep it. And so I'm reading always when people go, can I do this without priming? And I'm going, you lost your freaking mind? Why are you wasting your time? You're wasting your time and effort and money.
Everyone's always trying to find that shortcut. The paint and primer in one. Do I have to sand between coats? Do I, can I get by with one coat of primer? And I'm just like, you're building a base. Like, you want the most perfect base you can get. Why would you take shortcuts? But man, we've created a world of people that just want to get there faster.
Yeah, and the paint and primer mix, you see that from the architectural coatings and stuff. I just go, no, I'll put my own primer on, thank you, and we'll move on down the road. And people laugh at me.
Well, I've long said paint and primer. People ask me all the time when I was a contractor, had my painting company friends, how about that paint and primer in one? And, does that stuff really work? And I'm like, well, I mean, personally, I think it's just a marketing ploy to get you to buy $75 gallon paint versus $20 primer and then $30 wall paint. They're going to sell you something that's $75 or $70, and then they're going to tell you have to apply 3 coats of it, 1 as a primer and 2 as a finish. So, and it's the same thing that's in the bucket over here.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And that just goes to the prep work that, learned over this time. Since I'm not on a gun every day, and my time, and people might be asking, well, dude, why do you want to do this? Why don't you go off and spend the money for a T4, which is a lot of money. That was a big investment. And one, you have the surf prep. I have the sander, and I have the vacuum also, the smaller vacuum. Love those tools. Gosh, those are just, they say game changers, made my life a lot better. It's because when I go to do this, because I said I don't golf. I do a little hunting. I don't golf. I don't care. I watch stick and ball sports a little bit. Obviously, I watch this school called A&M a little bit. Watch them do their thing, you know. So
if I'd have known, I'd have wore my OU hat, but that's okay.
That would have been totally fine. I love it. I would have loved it. This is Friday, so this is what I wear. Always wear an A&M shirt on Friday. So that's just me. So, you know, you go to this in these. Why do I do this? And why do I have these tools? It's because when I get out there to do this and do something I enjoy, I don't want to be screwing around, wasting my time, because I only have so much time to do this. And so that's what I'm doing.
So if you're going to do it right.
Yes, sir. And then I don't want DIY results. I think there's a lot of people who've been conditioned to accept lower grade results, and it's okay, even from contractors coming in. And it's like, and I'm more forgiving of contractors today than I've ever been in my life. I used to think I knew everything, and now I'm going like, no, that really doesn't look so bad. I can live with that because I know how hard it is to get there. And so I'm giving everybody a lot more grace because I know how easy.
Yeah, I mean, it does help people, and there's a model out there of, I know some painting contractors that, and it's a successful model, is they go, their key customer is someone who tries it themselves, gets in the middle of it, and says, oh shit, I'm in way over my head. I need to bring someone in. And there's painting contractors that target that specific demographic, and they just go in and finish the job, you know, fix and finish.
I knew I was going to learn some stuff. That was actually the biggest reason I want to be here today. Is I'm going to learn something. I don't know what it's going to be.
I mean, it's a pretty interesting concept to go in and finish people's jobs. But I mean, I run into that all the time. And that's kind of was one of the reasons that when you and I were talking, and I was like, man, we really need to get Patrick on here because, you know, I've got a lot of finishers in the community that listen to the podcast. And I think a big hurdle, not big, but a hurdle that can happen, because it happened to me early in my career, is when you go into it, doing an estimate, whether it's cabinet finishing or wall painting, and, you know, you give them a estimate for, you know, $10,000 to finish their cabinets. And they look at me and, you know, they're like, I can go buy the paint at Home Depot for a couple $100. Like, what makes you worth $10,000? So getting the perspective of someone who's done it, and then having our non-finishing member community listen and know what it takes to produce these results, the equipment, that investment that it takes to produce these professional results that they want, is not something that's cheap. And the time that they've put into learning the skill of spraying these coatings correctly. I mean, you and I have been talking for probably close to a year.
Probably 2 years to 3.
Yeah.
Because I try not to bother. I hit all y'all up. You know, I hit Dennis Rodriguez up. What's his buddy in Nashville?
Eric.
Eric Reason, hit him up. Hit you up. And on the Facebook side, I don't go out there and ask too many questions because I don't want to get trolled. Because I'm really serious, and I'm not, you know. So I actually DM those people, and we have a few good conversations. But, you know, that's it. People don't understand. So I have, behind my laptop here, I have 3 envelopes. That's the receipts for stuff purchased on projects. I do a lot of work for family members. And the deal is they pay me all materials down to, I count every glove I put on. Every glove, every 3 board. The green 3x4 sheet of surf prep paper, the foam. Which foam? I track every bit of it. And guess what? They get an invoice saying, fill it out, says, this is what you owe me. And it's just a list of materials.
Yeah. But that's a huge thing for great advice for contractors too. Like, I mean, I preach that all the time. You have to know your numbers. You have to know what your cost is. You can't just lump up sanding pads and say, I spend this much a month. You need to know down to per job how much sandpaper it's taking, how much time it's taking to sand that door, how many times you run across it. I mean,
you're just preaching to me, and you're like preaching to the choir, because from the project management side in my day job, we want to know time and motion studies, because we got to build an ROI model going into this that we're going to make money, and we're going to get asked to present every month after we go put something in production. Are we making money or not? And that's based upon how well we track it, how well we estimate it going into that. There's no different than that than going in. There's no more complications than going and doing an accounting job. So it's the same.
So my wife, this is interesting talking to you, and my wife has taught me a lot. My wife is a finance person, and she works for a government contractor, but her specialty is, and you'll probably know, it's called earned value management. And that's, in the defense and the contracting world, that's what the government lives by. So I've learned a lot from her, just talking about work and earned value, and this is what I bid on a project was X, and we're only a quarter of the way through and we've spent this much money. If I track this all the way to the end, guys, we're not going to make any money. We've got to make some adjustments at the very beginning so we can make it last to make money at the end. And I mean, that's what she's excelled her, 20 plus year career in. And it's helped me a lot on the contractor side to learn that you have to know where everything is. I mean, down to the penny, down to the glove. Like you said, you got to know it all. And once you learn that and it sinks in, man, it changes things for you, changes your outlook.
And I think you can't go into this cocky and have an attitude going to a client and presenting the bid of like, hey, you go stand and tell me how it works. I've heard people say that a lot of times on the various things, but you've got to go in there and it has to be an experience. We live in a world of experiences, and whether you like it or not, I'm not saying I'm not that guy and I'm not the experienced guy, but if you can present an experience that's really good, if you go in there that your guys and girls are going to go in there that they are not going to be using foul language in front of kids. They're not going to have the radio blaring. It's cool if you have your earbuds in and you're just rocking and rolling doing your thing. When you leave each day, you pick up behind you. If you leave tools there, cords are wrapped neatly. All that type stuff versus, Chuck in a truck showing up and it just explodes and there's a microwave in the backyard. I found that one in my house. It's one time a microwave. I wasn't really thrilled about that. My wife was really upset about that. It's okay if you're gonna heat some food up. I'm telling you, I'm cool with that. Just pick it up when you're done. That's we need.
The experience is huge. 100%.
You're right. The coatings, if we go from, let's take a Sherwin-Williams Emerald at the cost I get it at, they're very nice to me. They sell it to me like I'm a huge buyer, and I get treated really well by people like you and other people, Eric and I said, Dennis, all treating me really well, and Sherwin-Williams treats me well, but I'm not a huge buyer. Matt Ryan treats me really well out in Missouri, and but I get these coatings. I try to explain to these people, and go, you're going to pay $150 a gallon. And I'm going, yeah, I'm only buying 1 gallon of it. So, but I'm fixing to put 20 hours of my time in it that I'm not going to get back. Do the math, guys.
Yeah, it's not that hard.
And so when you look at these coatings, they need to not worry about the coating cost. They need to present the experience in the final product. I want how we're going to do it. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to achieve it. And this is what you get in the end. And we're going to take care of you.
Killer advice. That just goes back to, I was talking to, who was I talking to the other day? It might have been Nick Slavic. I think I was talking to him last week or something, but we were talking about one of my favorite books. Previous life, I was a manager for Avis Rental Car in Denver. And we had a guy, his name was Dave Olson, and he preached experience to customers. Customer experience was above everything. But it included everything. It encompassed every part of the business. And he preached off this book called Inside the Magic Kingdom. And I urge my community that if you haven't read it and you are a business owner, it is probably one of the greatest books. I can't remember the guy's name, who writes it, but if you just Google Inside the Magic Kingdom, so it's fiction, and then he is taking a guy, we'll call him Jim. He's taking 6 executives and business owners to Disney, behind the scenes Disney, in this fictional story, and learning and explaining to them what makes Disney so exceptional at the period where they were at the pinnacle of an experience. And it goes into, who's your competition as a painter? It's not Jim Bob's Painting, Frank's Painting, Chuck in a Truck. It's any company that provides that person with a better experience, because that's all it's about. It doesn't matter if you're selling widgets, if you're selling grocery food like H-E-B or Walmart. If you provide a superior experience, you will be compared to them. Anyone. $1 million corporation, you could be doing $500,000 a year. $1 billion corporation versus a guy doing $100,000 a year. They will, if you provide that customer with a better experience, you will have them forever, just like Disney does. And you can charge whatever you want.
And it's interesting you say that, looking at the service industries, because I have a sprinkler guy that manages my sprinkler system for me. I text him, Ishmael, this is what's going on. He goes, sure, I'll be on this date. That we don't discuss money. Just tell me, just do it. I don't care. And he'll fix it, and I don't have to go on. And it's the same thing with, I have a roof on a house like most people do. I got a roofer, Brian. This is what I got, a little issue going on, or I need a roof. Here's the price. And you project manage the experience of a roof. How can a roof be a good experience? That's the most boring thing around. A roof shows up early. He shows up early. He tarps my pool. He tarps all my plants. One of his guys drops a shingle, hits something on my AC, knocks the control wire off. He goes, call your AC guy up right now. Here's my credit card. We're done. There's no questions.
And half the service industry, I tell guys all the time, just answer the phone and call them back. Like, that'll be a superior experience than most service-based companies. Just return phone calls.
And if it requires you to hire an admin to manage that call, make that quick contact, do it. It will pay you.
I remember my father-in-law, who kind of mentored me into this business, and his big deal was do all aspects of the business. Find out what you love, find out what you hate. Figure out how you can get enough business to hire the people to do the stuff that you hate. That way you get to do the stuff that you love, and it's not a job. But if you think you got to do it all, you're going to be in trouble.
And that's the challenge I have as my personality is I think I have to do it all. And I'm at 57 years old, I'm finally growing that I don't have to do it all. I call the plumber now after breaking a few things. I've retired from setting tile. I've set a lot of tile. I don't do landscaping anymore. I'll mow, but I will not build the flower beds. They hate me because I did so much more. I ran my little mowing business as a kid. If your flower beds aren't laid out right, or mine aren't laid out, we're going to have a conversation, because it's all about hauling butt. I drop it, mow and get out of there. Someone do it. But that comes with experience. But it goes back to, besides you, there's the technical aspect you mentioned earlier. Exactly. And I'm struggling with that right now. With some of the technical aspects, is I hit it some days I hit it and I'm going, man, I'm the guy. Other days I'm going, tell my wife, well, we're going to sand that out. That was a piece of crap. But she knows that I will not quit. That's the difference. I am not going to quit. I'm not going to just walk away from it and we're done. We're going to get it right. And it's the speed. I hear it all the time right now. I have some stuff written down here. It's like what gets me every day that I got to learn how to do is I've got to get beyond these micro bubbles. It's killing me. I know it's temperature, humidity, and I'm measuring all that in my shop. I got all that measured. I'm running, but it's how fast I'm pulling the gun across the surface, the substrate, the distance. What are my pressure settings? And so having a little bit of data background, I have on my phone, and I don't know if you're a contractor and you do not have your stuff written down on your phone or on a log in the shop. to know how to set that up. It's repeatability. You've got to be repeatable to make money. And so that's where I'm struggling right now. And I see these other people struggling with these waterborne coatings like Centurion. I don't hear about Renner because I'm not on any Renner forums. I'm assuming it probably.
I mean, what's interesting about water-based coatings that I learned on the manufacturer side, and just from my experience, I started doing water-based, 2 years into my painting career because I could see it coming and I just wanted to start early. But my favorite, Miles, the engineer of Centurion and also one of the principal owners and chemist, the best advice he ever told me was, not advice, but the best thing I ever heard him say, which is great, and it kind of leads into it, is in a gallon of paint, on average, is 1,000 compromises.
That's fun.
Because you've got all these resins and co-solvents that in a traditional world, in a chemist world, don't go together and aren't supposed to go together. And every gallon of silicone paint or every gallon of water-based paint is silicone. What is the worst thing for paint? Silicone. But it's in there. Like, it doesn't matter who the manufacturer is. They all have a silicone co-solvent additive. I don't know what the hell it does, but they all have them. Every manufacturer. And it's controlled and forced compatibility. They make them like each other. So in order to get it to hang, you have to use X thickener. But in order to get it to flow out, you have to use Y thickener. So you have to find that compromise between the two of where the best blend is. How many people can you satisfy out of the can? If you can get the rule of thumb, if I can make 80% of the customers happening with what's in the can, I'm doing good. And then for the other 20%, I've got an array of additives that you can put into it to make it what you want. But the tricky thing about water-based is you've got this finicky equalizer that I like to call Mother Nature, that it doesn't matter how good you get. The weather, she is going to throw a wrench in your system anytime she can. It doesn't matter if you're Dennis or you're Eric, love those guys, or you're Russell, any of these amazing guys that are out there. They all have problems. They do. They're going to get the micro bubbling here and there. They just, like you, they sand it out. All right. What's the difference here? Like, what did I change? What did I do different that I wasn't doing yesterday? Is the humidity different? Is the shop different? Is the dew point different? What's the viscosity? What's the temperature of the paint? Is that different? Let's just work backwards. Typically, those guys can get to the solution faster, and in their head, they don't even recognize that as a problem. So when you hear them say, "Oh, I don't ever have problems," they do. But they just know how to manage and work backwards. I mean, because I used to tell guys that I hired and my project manager all the time that painting and knowing what you're doing is all about fixing problems, because they're going to happen. You can learn the perfect process, the perfect mixture, but something's going to happen and you're going to have to fix stuff. The faster you grasp on that no job's ever going to go perfect, the much easier life will go. But water-based, I think still, oh man, his episode hasn't come out yet, but I had an excellent chemist for a company up in Canada that does raw materials. He's a raw material chemist. And he had some crazy insight when it comes to polyurethanes and just standard urethanes as far as on the technical side. Because when we as finishers are testing these products, we're testing them out in the world water-based too, in a lab. Like when you call me when I was, my previous life and, hey, this is happening, can you check it? We always check it in a lab. That was kind of the perfect conditions. It's, 70 degrees, it's perfect humidity. We keep the lab exactly how the coating is designed to be. So you take it out, but that's why you see so much testing going on now with water-based. I think it got a little fast in the beginning as far as people were trying to get products out, but now we're into the perfection phase of turning water-based coatings into 100% replacement for solvent, trying to make them perfect.
That's interesting though, because that's all that chemistry and that technical stuff. It's like you and Denny got into it, you and Robert Chicky got into it. I mean, my mind just blew up. Oh my God. It's like, I guess I should have paid attention to ever pass chemistry in college. I don't think I ever did, but yeah, it's a lot going on. And people, the client doesn't understand that. They don't understand. These people have the skill to manage that. And it is developed skill.
And you have to set the expectation. So I'll switch kind of pace a little bit. You're a little more advanced than what I would consider a standard DIY guy, but like your kitchen, you recently in the last year or two redid your kitchen, if I'm not correct. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I built a set of cabinets. I custom built the cabinets and floating shelves around my fireplace, and then I redid I did custom cabinets in the garage, custom cabinets in the living room, which is an open floor plan, so it's all in the kitchen, and then I just did the bathroom. It's all Centurion.
So on average, how long did it take you to finish them? Like as someone who doesn't do it every day, this is kind of like a weekend warrior, but for setting the expectation, and maybe our painters out there can use kind of some knowledge of how long it took you to do it as a semi-pro DIY, and use that to relate to homeowners that like, yeah, you can tackle it yourself. Expect it to take, 40% longer.
Yeah, at least. So let's take the most recent is the bathroom, because there was no build yet. There is a custom build. We're going through the design phase of a set of cabinets in there, but just that job entailed I sprayed new texture. I installed new lighting, new mirrors. Cabinets aren't a huge amount of cabinets. I also did shiplap behind the. It did that, and it turned out just beautiful. Everybody's gonna hate me. Yes, I used emerald because it was trim, but yeah, it was emerald urethane because it was trim. It wasn't, it didn't get touched. It doesn't get touched behind the bathtub. And plus the cabinets that was 2,800, 1107 to 2,800 on those. And that took me 2 months. And I worked every day. I've been working from home before COVID. It's nothing new to me. So I get off work and go in there and hit it for an hour, 2 hours. Wednesdays is church night. So we're going to church on Wednesday night. And then good amount of time on Saturday, not all day, and then some after church. And it's 2 months because all the doors, prime them, but good sort of primer. Sometimes prime twice because with that surf prep we've talked about, you can burn through primer just looking at something that boy. And so about 2 months, and finished product. Oh gosh, yeah, I have some problems in there, but I got some of that 2,800 on there. It looks like I know what I'm doing. I mean, it's like, this is good.
You do your research and do your due diligence, we'll call it. I mean, it makes a difference to actually paying attention. And I mean, I think the other thing that I think is worth noting for someone like yourself is, and even painters, like, you found a product, you like it. Is it perfect? I mean, no product's going to be perfect. I mean, it's made by people. People aren't perfect, but you put the time in to learn the product and you stick with it. One frustration, you don't dump it and try another new one, because the same problems are going to happen with every coating. You just have to learn how to overcome those issues.
Hey, I use 5 coatings. I'm going to use Kilts on my arc for drywall primer. I'm going to use emerald latex and satin on the walls. I'll use emerald satin or emerald semi-gloss urethane on that. I'll use, the primer I'll probably use is the cover stain. It seems to work real well when it dries, and I can sand it out. Sand and bites brush marks out of it from the previous person put it on. And then cabinets will be 1107, or I'm going to try the 1111. Is that the
1111? Yeah.
Yeah. I got a gallon of that in the shop and some partner out there, and 2800. There's going to be no other painting because those are all solid products in their respective space. I just need to learn how to do it and not chase the next shiny new thing.
That happens a lot in our world of chasing the shiny new coating. And, I try to stress to people a lot, it's good to know other coatings and have a backup coating, but you've got to learn the coating that you're using. I mean, you need to know it. You need to be able, you look at Eric or you look at Dennis. Eric is a wealth of knowledge of real world using as far as Centurion products go. Even Envirolac. A lot of coatings company call him, hey, what did you, any recommendations on this coating that should be done? Because he uses so much of it and he wants to know everything about it. Dennis is the same way. I want to know everything about these coatings and I'll try them all. But, I think everyone knows that Dennis is primarily Renner and Envirolac, but he knows them all. But he's got the ones that he buys every day and keeps in his shop every day. And Eric is Centurion and Envirolac. That's their primary coatings. That's what they have spent their time perfecting. So that's what they're going to use on the daily. But you can ask them about anything because they've used them. Let's see here. What about... So as a guy that has done the DIY and loves the woodworking side, what would be a recommendation that you would have for guys out there that think this could be a good career path from a guy that's dabbles in it and has learned to excel in it?
I think there's money to be made. That's what I think. But it's a business. You got to treat it like a business. You got to spend time on the business, and you got to figure out how to get off the gun and get onto Excel and run a business. It's there, but you've spoken. I think you were speaking that there's not a trade. Was it you were saying there's not an accreditation in the United States for painters, right?
Yeah,
I think that would be awesome. Personally, I want to go take some classes from Lewis over there at Fine Finishing. He's now 34. Yeah, he's about 34 miles from my house right now. I just got to line everything up and go take his classes. I'd love to do that. But one, take some classes, learn these waterborne coatings. The thought of you spraying lacquer in my house, I don't even like basic mineral spirits in my house. I hate that stuff. Then go ahead and learn how to do those things, but build the business and build the brand. And you got to find that client, somebody who doesn't want you to come in and just blow paint everywhere and, quick paint job, run out. But find that client that's right, and seek that client and then nurture that client base.
Yeah, 100%. And what's really interesting, you say solvent versus water-based. In the coatings industry, the solvent-based, like lacquer coating cells compared to water-based coating cells, blow your mind, is still 85-15.
Really?
85% of cells are
wow.
80 to 85% of cells are still solvent versus water-based.
Well, interesting. Well, I'm looking, the house is 5 years old, and the guy who painted it was his first paint job, I think. I'm harsh. I'm sorry, I am. It looks like, it is, but they got to be fast, and I do respect that. But, they made this transition from spraying, I guess it's Pro Classic enamel probably back 20 years ago. And now they're spraying, everything's waterborne, even all your trim.
Yeah. In some cases, there's still a lot of pre-cat lacquer. What's interesting, though, like in the Dallas market and up in the Oklahoma market, a lot of new builders have switched over to quick dry oil enamel.
Okay.
It's some of the most worst paint.
Interesting.
It's dries like a lacquer, but it's an oil enamel, so it can be brushed. But there's guys that actually retard it with diesel versus, yeah, diesel.
Yeah, that's an oil.
Yeah, so it is an oil. So it's a quick dry. It's an oil enamel. But it's the worst smelling product. I can't stand quick dry oil, but it's heavily being used now. And there's still a lot of pre-cat lacquer and a lot of high build lacquer. I mean, you've got, companies, for instance, Gemini, great company. I love them to death. But, I don't know. They're probably 75 to $100 million a year company. And 95% of their business is still solvent.
Is it because you have a user base that's really good at applying it and they know how it's going to react?
It's been around so long, and there is a solvent to solve every single issue. Mother Nature doesn't really affect it, because if you need to retard it, you can retard it. If it's blushing, there's a solvent you can use for blushing. If you need to, make it dry faster, you can put lacquer thinner, or some people will put xylene. I mean, there is a solvent that will do everything you need it to do, and Mother Nature's really not a factor. Is pre-COVID, you could get pre-cat lacquer in a pail for under $20 a gallon. Now, COVID has kind of ruined that. The gap is much smaller between the two coatings. I mean, there's not much difference in a pre-cat lacquer versus an industrial acrylic enamel. They're going to dry about the same. They're going to cost about the same. The acrylic is going to actually have a higher volume solid, so you'll use less, but the comfort level is not there. And the pre-cat still, how it's going to act every single time. There is no equalizer. So there's still a lot of it out there, but the industry, I would say in the last 5 years, has made insane strides towards trying to get rid of it. There's a lot of guys that say as soon as Sherwin-Williams stops selling it, it's gone.
What is their label they sell it under?
Well, they've got a couple ones. Most of it's an industrial, just a wood coatings label. It's like a generic. They don't have, that's the one. They have Chemvar, which is a conversion varnish. And I think under that Chem name, they do one, but they also own Sayerlac, and they own ICA. And so they own multiple companies that do. Sayerlac sells a pre-cat lacquer. But SW's largest market in the United States is Dallas-Fort Worth. SW does last I heard, was over $300 million a year in sales in the Dallas market.
Are they selling to major cabinet shops that are
big cabinet shops, remodelers, new construction? I mean, they go across the gamut. I mean, they go everything. So most of your new construction is still solvent. And there's still a decent amount of remodel guys that are still solvent, but it is slowly. And I would hate to project it, but I would still say you're probably 5 years out from it being even remotely close to equal, maybe longer.
What about durability? Because this 2800 is crazy.
No, the durability is nothing. There's no once you start doing it, a lot of people just get scared, because what I've noticed on both the application side and the manufacturing side is you get these guys like, I see all this stuff about Renner, Malaysia, ICA, ICA, Icaro, Ilva, whatever, Centurion. I'm going to try it. Envirolac. I think I'm going to try it. And they get on these forums, and then they just go, hell no. They get scared because all these people having problems, versus just like you just pointed out, try it, take a class, do a little bit of research, because I can go into a shop personally, and did many a times, builder spraying 400 or spraying pre-cat lacquer. I could take a single component acrylic like the 400 series that Centurion had, 30 minutes, they're like, well, I'm never using lacquer again. That doesn't make any sense. This stuff is dry to touch in 15 to 20 minutes, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I can do everything that I can do with a pre-cat lacquer. I can do right now with this product, and it doesn't smell, and you don't have hazardous waste you have to get rid of.
Yeah. I got a piece of furniture I did in 400 and freaking incredible slick. It laid out beautiful.
It lays out great, and it will outperform most pre-cat lacquers. I've find it hard to find a pre-cat lacquer, but a lot of it's just still getting knowledge out there. And what I learned on the manufacturing side, there's not very many, I don't know of lacquer, for instance, when they're manufacturing that, you've got guys that do 2, 3, 5,000 gallon batches, and they'll have 10 of those going. Even your biggest companies don't do water-based in huge batches. It is a small batch manufacturing process. I don't really know why, but I've asked from my experiences, you get like maybe 1,000. Most guys are under 1,000 gallon tanks that they're doing water-based in, 500, 600 gallons.
That seems tough to control.
It's very, very tough to control quality. But when you get into the larger batches, you run into compatibility issues because you're forced compatibility on some of these products, and it just does not. There's been issues, and across, I don't really know how to explain it because I don't know chemistry. Again, I sucked at science in school, but about having these solvents and these co-solvents in these large batches, and the sales aren't quite there yet, probably, but most of them say they don't see it going that way. I mean, the Italians have perfected water-based coatings and small batch manufacturing. They don't do large batch manufacturing. It's interesting. I've always would love to go tour a facility in Europe and see, how they do it differently. But it is definitely an interesting business, and I think water-based is going to get better. It's only going to get better.
I think, yeah. I think we've seen progression over time. Just to me being an individual user, homeowner, I've seen the quality of all water-based products get better in the past 20, 30 years. It's constantly better. Remember, no matter what label you put on it, who's selling it, it's all gotten better. I did not realize it was that small, say, at another outlets. But, the person like me, like I said, I have no problem hiring somebody. I really don't, but I do expect it to be done right. And that's where and I start talking to them about coatings, and they don't know this coating or they don't know this. And it's like, no, I don't want to deal with you. And my friends in the friend group, they're like, I'm crazy about this. And it's like, no, man, we should expect better. We live in the best country in the world. Tons of smart people, tons of knowledge and skill here. Why are you accepting less than what it should be? We have the ability to do better.
100%.
Water-based coatings, I think, is the way to go eventually.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is I'll probably get some hate for this one, but the lack of holding people responsible. Like, accountability has gone downhill over the last couple generations, that it's just about ridiculous. But I think a lot of that is people don't want to hurt someone's feelings, but tell them they didn't do a good job, or, people take it personally. It's like, no, I'm paying you to do something. This is my expectation. Make your expectation clear. And if they don't meet it, you need to tell them, not just accept it and move on.
It's interesting you say that. I had that experience. I had some cabinets painted, and that's when I was first learning about water-based finishes. And this is going to make some go crazy. Yes, they were painting an emerald urethane. Guys it was standard golden oak, right? Probably used cover stain, and they primed it. And I'm looking at this, and I'm coming back behind them with the light, looking at things, and I see these runs, and I am just losing. I've launched, and my wife finally calms me down. Says, "Why don't you just call him and tell him?" And I called him up. I said, "Roberto, I got runs over there. this ain't gonna work. He goes, okay. Says, I like you. I'll fix it. No problem. I'll let him do his job. I backed off. I told him nicely. And next day, his crew was out there. They got the old razor blades out. They scraped it. They sanded it. Gone. Not a run anywhere with it. The finished product was fine. But I did tell them that this is unacceptable.
I was just on Facebook the other day, and somebody posted in one of the groups, homeowner posted in a group about cabinets, and they had pictures of them, and they were cracked, and you could tell it was just too heavy. Like they'd sprayed it primer, and then I think they had one top coat on, and it just cracked. It was too heavy, and they didn't allow enough drive time.
I think I saw that post.
Yeah.
It was nuts.
And you start reading the comments, and there was a couple of them that did exactly that. They were like, okay, stop freaking out. Call your contractor and say, hey, we need to address this. Let's talk. And just, they may already know about it. They may not know about it. So let the contractor do his thing, but let him know what your expectation is. Give him your expectation and then let him do his thing. If he's not going to do it, well, then you have another issue. But if he doesn't even know about it, then
you don't talk about it. You
can't fix anything that he doesn't know about. And then someone else said, you just got, a free faux finish called Crackle. And I started laughing really out loud. My wife's like, you're such a paint nerd. I was like, yeah.
Yeah, I saw that too and go, I've done that finish for my wife, by the way. She liked it.
It's a free antique finish.
Yeah, I would have. But I'm from the homeowner perspective. I would have flipped out.
I mean, I get it. You come home from work and your cabinets. Oh yeah, we're doing finish coat today. You go home and go, what? I could see that. Well, Patrick, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know you got stuff going on. Man, thank you for coming on. This has been really awesome. I mean, it's nice to get the perspective from someone who isn't quite in the business every day, but actually has a really, really good understanding of the coatings to kind of help our guys to be able to communicate better.
I enjoyed it. Learned a lot. I watched your show. Yeah, I think I'm one episode behind, a few episodes maybe, but I do watch all the shows. I do watch them. I watch a couple of them out there, and I appreciate what y'all were doing because it's just to understand more. And I got a huge amount of respect for the men and women who are on the sander, on the planer, building stuff, cutting stuff, painting, finishing. Huge respect. Just because I'm an IT nerd, an old IT nerd, doesn't mean that I don't appreciate their ability and what they bring to make our life better every day.
Well, I know we appreciate, as a contractor, getting to work with customers like yourself. I mean, it's fun when you're kind of a paint nerd yourself, but it's great to be able to go into a house and feel that respect back that you're giving the homeowner when you're working for them. It makes the jobs much more fun, and it makes the experience that much better. All right. Well, I mean, again, thank you for coming on the Bearded Finisher podcast. Hopefully, I appreciate you listening. Look forward to maybe get you on another episode, get you out there. Maybe we'll see you at a training soon. And again, thank you everybody for coming on. Again, every Monday, we've got new episodes coming out. Stay tuned, and we'll see everybody next week.
And that's a wrap on this episode of the Bearded Finisher podcast. We thank everyone for joining. Keep hustling, keep learning, and never settle for anything less than your best. Remember, the path to perfection is a journey, not a destination. Until next time.